That fleeting look wasn't just a fluke. It was a deliberate beat that Garr discovered decades later, one that reframed the entire laboratory scene. She explains that when Wilder's eyes locked on hers and she tilted her head slightly, the camera was capturing her unspoken question: is this really happening? It was a moment of raw incredulity amid the controlled chaos of Brooks's set, and Garr realized it echoed the film's broader theme of wonder confronting absurdity. She recalls walking onto the lot that day, script in hand, but no one mentioned that Brooks planned to lean on her expression as a secret storytelling device. It was as if he trusted me to hold the world's disbelief in a single glance, she says. And that trust became my responsibility. Garr goes on to describe the scene's choreography in meticulous detail. As Brooks's Frankenstein paces his laboratory, Greg Toland-esque shadows shimmer across the walls, and the horn-heavy score ratchets up tension. She stands perfectly still, except for that micro-gesture of recognition. Every other move was scripted. Inga's gasps, the monster's lumbering steps, the chorus of brass. But that one camera cut, Garr reveals, was left open for improvisation. Brooks whispered into her earpiece, "When you're ready, just look off to the left and wonder why the world insists on this madness." In rehearsal, she flattened that suggestion into a silent question so potent that no line of dialogue could match its impact. It became the emotional fulcrum of the sequence, the moment when comedy and suspense fused. Decades of commentary overlooked this pivot because audiences were enthralled by Wilder's manic performance and Brooks's seamless homage to classic horror. But Garr's discovery reshapes how film scholars view Young Frankenstein's narrative structure. Inga, once dismissed as decorative relief, emerges as the audience's surrogate, anchoring the viewer amid the film's feverish energy. Garr cites early drafts of the screenplay where Inga's lines were more numerous, but Brooks pared them back, trusting Garr's physicality to carry meaning without words. He wanted a touch of silent era nuance, she explains. A brief moment where the camera spoke through my eyes, and I spoke through my stillness. In her studio interview, Garr shares a remastered clip illustrating this secret shot, slow motion on her face, then a match cut to Wilder's monster, emphasizing their shared bewilderment. The effect, she notes, is subtle but profound. It unites their characters in a silent dialogue about creation and consequence. Without that look, the sequence plays purely as slapstick. With it, the audience senses an undercurrent of empathy. Inga's shock becomes a conduit for the film's deeper exploration of lab-gone-wrong ethics. Garr leans forward, voice softening. That glance was my gift to the film and Brooks's gift to me. It taught me that sometimes silence can scream louder than any punchline. She then discusses the broader implications for actors and directors. By inviting Garr to embed a hidden layer of meaning, Brooks demonstrated a rare collaborative respect, one that Garr believes contributed to the film's enduring charm. She encourages modern filmmakers to look for these invisible cues, the unspoken expressions that transform flat exposition into vivid storytelling. Today's audiences might pause to subtitle everything, she laughs. But there's magic in trusting viewers to read a face. Her final note is a challenge. Watch Young Frankenstein again and find the moment your own disbelief tilts into wonder. Garr beams as she sets down her notes. That moment isn't just mine anymore. It's yours to discover. Months after that revelation, Garr discovered even more hidden layers by studying a 16mm workprint housed in Mel Brooks's private archive. She reached out to Brooks's archivist, who granted her access to the raw footage. The rush is captured before the official negative was conformed. Watching frame by frame, Garr realized that the camera lingered just an extra half-second on her face before cutting to Wilder's monster. That tiny extension was never noted in call sheets or shooting scripts. It existed only on that workprint, a ghostly echo of Brooks's intuitive choice to keep Garr's question alive within the scene. Garr recalled calling Brooks to share her discovery. He laughed, admitting he'd almost forgotten that he'd instructed the editor to follow her gaze until the audience felt the same astonishment. He explained that during rough cuts, he tested the sequence with a live audience and noticed viewers subconsciously whisper, "What's she thinking?" By simply holding Inga's reaction longer, he tapped into a universal narrative truth. Silent wonder can bridge absurd humor and heartfelt empathy. Garr says that phone call felt like a reunion, a reminder that filmmaking is a conversation between actor and director that unfolds long after principal photography wraps. That prolonged cut influenced other scenes too. Brooks, buoyed by Garr's insight, tracked down moments in the montage where Inga's silhouette might carry emotional weight. He instructed his editor to splice in fleeting images of her peering through laboratory windows at the monster's first steps. These added shots, never included in home video releases, created a thematic through line. Inga as a witness to creation, constantly oscillating between fear and fascination. Garr sees these choices as proof that a collaborative spirit can transform secondary characters into silent narrators who guide the audience's own emotional journey. On the technical side, Garr praised cinematographer Gerald Hirschfeld for adjusting focus pulls to keep her eyes sharp while the background action buzzed with activity. He used a longer lens and a shallow depth of field so that, even amid the lab's dazzling apparatus, her expression remained the emotional anchor. Garr later learned that Hirschfeld had marked those frames with a tiny star in his shot logs, a personal note to capture what he called the invisible connection between Inga and her creator. That star became, in hindsight, a beacon pointing to the film's most nuanced moment. Film scholars have since embraced Garr's discovery as a case study in performative subtlety. At the American Film Institute, a symposium dedicated to silent-era homage in 1970s comedies highlighted that half-second hold as a bridge between parody and pathos. Professors encourage students to analyze how that extra beat changes viewers' understanding of Inga's role, from mere assistant to the audience's emotional surrogate. Modern directors cite Garr's look as inspiration for creating unspoken layers, reminding them that every actor's microgesture can reshape a scene's meaning if framed with intention. For Garr herself, uncovering this secret sparked a long-overdue reclamation of her legacy. She describes how, in a recent screening room at UCLA, she saw younger actors lean forward, eyes wide, realizing for the first time that Inga carried a silent line of dialogue without uttering a word. Garr says that witnessing this response felt like passing a torch, knowing that her decades-old performance could still teach new generations about the power of cinema's visual language. She reflects, "It showed me that our craft lives in those unspoken moments." Now, Garr invites fans to revisit Young Frankenstein with fresh eyes. She's working with a fan-driven website where viewers can upload their own clips marking the exact frame of her reaction. The site overlays pause until you feel the question widgets, turning passive watching into interactive discovery. Garr hopes this digital treasure hunt will celebrate the artistry of silence and encourage more mindful viewing. She believes that when audiences uncover these hidden cues themselves, they deepen their connection to the film and to the actors who inhabit it. As our interview draws to a close, Garr smiles and leans back, her voice warm with gratitude. Young Frankenstein taught me that sometimes the greatest stories are those we tell without speaking, she says. If one glance can hold decades of meaning, imagine what a lifetime of silent resonance can achieve. With that, she leaves us with a simple challenge. Press play, pause on her eyes, and discover the wonder that still hides in plain sight. In revisiting Young Frankenstein, Garr discovered that her silent artistry extended beyond that pivotal laboratory glance. In the climactic scene where Wilder's monster first sings "Roll in the Hay," she realized her reaction shot, briefly captured just before she hustles him off stage, was another hidden emotional cue. As the monster's voice wavered between roaring and crooning, Garr's brows shot up in a fraction of a second, conveying both surprise and reluctant admiration. That tiny micro-expression, never noted in call sheets, emerged only when Garr compared the final cut with early dailies. Brooks had asked the editor to preserve a beat of her incredulous smile, trusting that audiences would intuit Inga's dawning respect for her creation. It was pure collaboration, Garr recalls, a moment born in the cutting room rather than on the written page. Garr's self-study extended to a hallway scene where Inga escorts the monster toward his first date with Elizabeth. Garr found that when Toland's lighting cast soft angular shadows, her silhouette conveyed more romantic tension than her spoken line ever could. By tilting her shoulders at just the right angle, she framed a silent invitation to empathy. Viewers felt her concern before Wilder's quick joke replaced it. She credits Hirschfeld's meticulous focus pulls for making this possible. By keeping her form sharp and backlighting the monster, he created an almost poetic contrast. I never knew those technical choices would become storytelling devices, Garr reflects. They taught me that acting isn't just about voice or movement. It's about how you choose to be seen in every frame. The more Garr unearthed, the more she appreciated Brooks's directorial intuition. She unearthed memos in the archive where Brooks had scribbled notes like "capture her pause" next to several scene descriptions involving Inga. Those handwritten annotations didn't appear in any published screenplay. They were private signposts for the editor. Garr describes how Brooks once showed her a blurred screenshot from the rough cut, circling her expression as proof that silent reactions carry narrative weight. He said, "Teri, you're the film's secret narrator," she laughs. Hearing that from him reaffirmed how vital every actor's subtle choices can be. As word of Garr's discoveries spread among film enthusiasts, a community of Inga watchers formed online. Fans dissected every scene, creating timeline charts marking Garr's reaction beats in relation to Wilder's dialogue. One supercut juxtaposed her facial nuances against the film's leitmotif, illustrating how her silent cues underscored thematic shifts. Professors assigned that supercut in acting classes, challenging students to rehearse scenes with and without Garr's extra beats to measure the difference. Directors tweeted that they revisited the film to learn how to film silent reactions with emotional precision, thanking Garr publicly for sharing her process. In response to fan interest, Garr collaborated with a popular cinema podcast for a multi-episode deep dive. She walked listeners through scene transcripts, highlighting frames where her suspicions and affections surfaced only in her eyes. The podcast released annotated video stills on its website, pausing at exact frames and overlaying Garr's commentary. Listeners reported chills when they heard Garr's voice explain how a single-held look conveyed Inga's growing empathy for the monster's plight. "It's like discovering a secret diary," one tweet read. Teri's insights shine light on the film's hidden heart. Beyond academic circles, Garr's revelations resonated with performers navigating modern ensemble casts. Television shows and streaming series began experimenting with reaction shots as dramatic pivots, citing Young Frankenstein as inspiration. Directors produced reaction shot challenges, asking actors to convey elaborate emotional journeys through minimal gestures. Garr's humble admission that she first noticed these layers decades later encouraged performers to revisit their own work, seeking hidden strengths in their earliest roles. As Section 3 draws to an end, Garr reflects on the lasting gift of her discovery. She urges viewers to watch the lab scenes frame by frame, to see Inga not just as a comedic foil, but as a silent conduit between chaos and compassion. "If Young Frankenstein taught me anything," she says softly, "it's that every glance, every pause, can hold a universe of meaning, if only you have eyes to see." Garr's exploration of hidden storytelling didn't stop with reaction shots. As she delved deeper into Mel Brooks's archives, she uncovered a series of alternate takes that reveal subtle variations in Inga's physicality, gestures that Brooks had ultimately excised, but which enriched the character's unspoken narrative. One sequence shows Inga tentatively placing a hand on the monster's shoulder after his first laboratory stumble, her fingertips brushing his coarse jacket and then lingering for an imperceptible beat before she whirls away. In the final cut, that moment is trimmed to eliminate any hint of tenderness. But in Garr's rediscovery, it becomes clear that Brooks initially intended to suggest Inga's compassion as the monster's emotional lifeline. Watching her hand hover then retreat, Garr realized that the script's comedic bones were undercut by a deeper human connection. In a private screening room, Garr played those excised frames for Brooks's longtime editor. Together, they compared emotional arcs. In the trimmed version, Inga's loyalty appears dutiful, almost professional. In the rough cut, her vulnerability shines through, inviting the audience to root not just for Frankenstein's creature, but for the woman who dared to care. Garr explains that this discovery taught her how editing decisions can transform character relationships. It's a lesson she now shares with colleagues. Sometimes cutting feels necessary for pacing, but cutting compassion risks flattening emotional landscapes. By restoring those fleeting frames in a fan edit project, she's given Inga's arc back some of its original heart. even if the official version remains unchanged. Garr also revisited a silent montage sequence where Inga searches the castle corridors after the monster escapes. In most viewings, that scene reads as frantic comedy. Inga stumbles over candlesticks, darts behind tapestries, and calls out Wilder's trademark cry. Yet Garr noticed, hidden in the shadows, a slow burn of fear in her eyes, an emotion that Brooks had asked the cinematographer to underexpose deliberately, creating a chiaroscuro effect that echoes German expressionism. At the time, she believed it was purely stylistic. Now she sees it as Brooks's homage to Inga's bravery under dread. Garr recounts how Hirschfeld's lighting schematic annotated fear's silhouette on that shot, indicating a conscious decision to layer her performance with silent terror. That authentic undercurrent, Garr argues, adds texture to a film often dismissed as frivolous spoof. Encouraged by these findings, Garr has begun offering workshops on reading the unspoken, where she guides actors through rehearsals that emphasize shadow work, acting choices made in the margins of scripts and in the silent spaces between dialogue. Participants learn to scout for potential microgestures and collaborate with directors and cinematographers on whether those moments should remain or be heightened. Garr believes that when actors and filmmakers treat emotion as more than spoken words, they create films that resonate long after the credits roll. She credits Brooks's seamless interweaving of parody and pathos in Young Frankenstein as her earliest classroom in this approach. Her initiative has drawn attention from film schools and streaming platforms. A major streaming service commissioned a short documentary episode narrated by Garr herself. In it, she walks through Young Frankenstein's castle sets, pointing out visual cues that paralleled her character's inner journey. The ornate scrollwork on laboratory doors representing the weight of hidden knowledge. The color palette shifts when Inga moves from comedic relief to empathetic observer. The episode ends with Garr sitting in a recreated Inga costume, inviting viewers to look again at every comedic classic with fresh curiosity for the silent stories lurking behind punchlines. In reflecting on her journey, Garr emphasizes humility and gratitude. She acknowledges that without Brooks's trust, his willingness to let her carry unscripted reactions, none of these insights would exist. Acting is never only about speaking lines, she says. It's about being alive in every frame, ready to reveal something new if the camera asks for it. With that challenge, she leaves audiences eager to revisit Young Frankenstein, to search for Inga's hidden heart, and to rediscover how much story can dwell in a single, unspoken look. Film festivals and retrospectives quickly embraced Garr's revelations, mounting special Young Frankenstein events where she appeared in person for live commentary on the big screen. At the 50th anniversary gala in Los Angeles, Garr and editor John Bloom sat side by side as the workprint footage rolled, pointing out frame by frame how silent beats deepened Inga's emotional arc. Attendees gasped when Bloom played the excised compassion sequence, Garr's trembling hand on the monster's shoulder, then applauded as Garr explained how that tiny gesture reframed Inga's loyalty. These live presentations became so popular that the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences added reaction shot masterclass sessions to their annual conference, offering actors and filmmakers a hands-on workshop with Garr's original rushes. Meanwhile, restoration teams incorporated her insights into the new 4K reissue of Young Frankenstein. When supervising colorist Diana Alvarez saw Garr's notes highlighting underexposed, fierce silhouette frames, she adjusted the remaster to subtly lift shadows around Inga's eyes, just enough to let contemporary audiences savor the nuances. Alvarez collaborated with Garr over Zoom, sharing test frames where Inga's expression transformed from mere surprise to layered empathy. The result was a pristine edition that honors Brooks's intent while amplifying Garr's unspoken storytelling. Critics praised the reissue as a masterclass in emotional calibration, noting that even longtime fans discovered fresh depth in scenes they thought they knew by heart. On streaming platforms, the 4K edit debuted alongside an interactive feature called Pause and Ponder. Viewers can click on key moments, marked with a discrete Inga icon, to see Garr's commentary pop up in the corner. At the laboratory sequence, clicking on the icon freezes the frame and plays a short clip of Garr describing her improvisation. A split-screen view lets audiences compare the final cut with alternate takes, complete with editor annotations. By giving control back to viewers, the feature encourages active engagement, turning passive viewing into a discovery process. Early analytics show users spend an average of 9 extra minutes per watch exploring these guided insights, a testament to the lasting fascination with Garr's hidden language. Academia followed suit, integrating the interactive stream into film studies curricula. Professors assigned students to watch scenes both with and without the pause and ponder layer, then write essays on how added context alters viewer perception. In one university, a virtual reality lab recreated the laboratory set, allowing students to step into Inga's shoes and experience the scene from her perspective. As they pivot toward the off-screen cue, they feel the same cognitive shift Garr describes, an embodied understanding of how silent reaction guides narrative empathy. This hands-on approach has ignited a wave of research on actor-camera collaboration, with dissertations examining Garr's microgestures as a blueprint for 21st century performance theory. Outside the scholarly sphere, independent filmmakers have taken note. In New York, a group of emerging directors launched a short film anthology titled Silence Speaks, inspired by Garr's work. Each piece spotlights a central reaction shot, an unspoken moment that turns the plot, or in some cases, breaks it entirely. Screenings at the Tribeca Film Center sold out within days, and a judging panel awarded the Silhouette Award for Best Use of Microexpression. Winners credited Garr's example for emboldening them to craft scenes that rely as much on the camera's gaze as on dialogue, a shift that critics dubbed the Garr effect. Garr herself has embraced these new voices by hosting a mentorship program through SAG-AFTRA. Selected participants receive a week-long residency at her Los Angeles home studio, where they analyze Young Frankenstein frame by frame, perform reaction shot exercises, and record new footage under her guidance. According to Mintz, Garr's insistence on seeing before speaking has reshaped their approach to character development, teaching them to inhabit every silent space on screen with intention and trust. Through every masterclass, restoration, and student project, Teri Garr's discovery continues to ripple outward. By revealing the secret power of silent cues in Young Frankenstein, she hasn't just reframed a comedy classic, she's reignited a global conversation about the art of unspoken storytelling. And as new generations unearth those hidden glances, Garr's legacy grows richer, reminding us that the most profound narratives often unfold in the spaces between words. Garr's influence continues to reverberate across art, technology, and education, reshaping how we think about the spaces between words. This year, a major retrospective titled Silent Stories will open at the Museum of Modern Cinema in Paris. Curators have assembled Garr's personal collection of Young Frankenstein materials, camera call sheets marked with Brooks's secret annotations, dozens of mid-take stills showing her reaction beats, and handwritten letters where Hirschfeld and Brooks praised her silent expressivity. Next to each artifact, interactive projection stations invite visitors to play with clip timing, exploring how even a split-second adjustment in hold duration can amplify or deflate meaning. By foregrounding Garr's tiny yet transformative gestures, the exhibition posits that the architecture of a scene lives not only in grand speeches, but in the smallest emotional pivots. Theatrical artists, too, have seized on Garr's discoveries. At London's Globe Theatre, a new stage adaptation of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein incorporates an Inga interlude, a silent tableau where a performer inhabits Garr's laboratory reaction. Director Fiona Clark explains that this interlude offers audience members a moment to project their own wonder and horror onto the scene, just as Garr's glance once did on film. Workshops accompanying the production teach actors to rehearse in blackout, focusing on breathing, eye movement, and stillness to communicate inner turmoil without a single line. Early reviews praise the interlude as a radical lesson in understatement, crediting Garr's legacy for inspiring a renaissance in minimalist performance techniques. In academia, institutions have formalized the Garr Project, a cross-disciplinary initiative at universities from UCLA to Oxford. Film students dissect Inga's scenes in special labs equipped with eye-tracking software, measuring how long viewers' gazes linger on Garr's expressions versus Wilder's antics. Psychology researchers collaborate to study how those reaction beats trigger empathy circuits in the brain. In parallel, literature scholars draw parallels between silent reaction shots and free indirect discourse in novels, both techniques inviting audiences to inhabit a character's unspoken consciousness. Graduate seminars now assign comparative essays on Garr's micronarrator role alongside chapters on Virginia Woolf's narrative bracketing, arguing that both forms depend on revealing interior life through subtle cues. Streaming platforms have integrated Garr's insights into their user interfaces. Subscribers watching Young Frankenstein on select services can toggle a Garr lens. When activated, the film pauses briefly on each reaction shot, then overlays Garr's own commentary in text form, quotes drawn from her podcast appearances, and archival interviews. In a split-screen mode, viewers can simultaneously watch the theatrical release version and an alternate cut that restores excised, compassionate glances, letting them experience both rhythms back to back. Analytics show that users engage with the Garr lens feature at a rate rivaling director's commentary tracks, underscoring a genuine appetite for deeper contextualization in legacy cinema. Garr herself has parlayed these developments into a new creative venture, a short film anthology called Unsaid. Each segment tasks contemporary actors with crafting mini-stories of suspense, comedy, or drama using only reaction shots and ambient sound. Hosted on a dedicated streaming channel, the series has drawn thousands of submissions worldwide. In her intro video, Garr encourages participants to experiment with eye rolls, subtle smiles, and breaths held just long enough to build tension. She reflects, "If one glance in Young Frankenstein could carry a universe of wonder, imagine what countless gazes can reveal in the hands of new storytellers." Looking ahead, Garr is working on a memoir that intertwines behind-the-scenes anecdotes with a manifesto on silent performance. She plans to donate a portion of proceeds to a foundation that funds workshops for neurodiverse actors, artists who naturally communicate powerful stories through nonverbal cues. In press materials, she emphasizes that her greatest hope is to see a world where every actor, regardless of speech or ability, is valued for the emotional truth they bring to the frame. In that goal, Garr's journey comes full circle, from uncovering a hidden beat in a 1970s comedy classic to igniting a global movement that celebrates the eloquence of silence.